The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. And by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff, in stock at coolstuffinc.com. The Dice Tower, episode 548.
Comeback games.
Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On today's show, a voicemail from Suzanne leads us to seek answers from a real-life store owner, and we share some of your ideas on how to deal with the constant flood of new games. Then we attempt to come back from behind with what Tom calls our top 10 comeback games. I'm Eric Summerer, and here's your host, the Rocky Balboa of board gaming, Tom Vassell.
Okay, I will accept this one.
Awesome. And then run up and down a set of stairs in Philly?
Adrian! I love the Rocky movies, and I really like the Creed movies, and I'm super excited about the next Creed movie coming out. Where, I don't know if you know anything about Creed.
Not really.
All right, Creed is a movie about the son of Apollo Creed, who Rocky trains.
Yes.
And there's more than that, okay? Well, in part 2, the one that's coming out, he's going to face against the son of the Russian, I think it's the son, of the Russian guy that Rocky fought in Rocky 4.
Ivan Drogo?
Yes, that's right. That's
cool.
Exciting.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
awesome.
I'm kind of excited about the remake of Karate Kid, or the sequel.
You mean that YouTube series?
Yeah. Where Danny and Johnny are facing off.
I'm going to watch it too. All right. Okay, folks. Well, this is actually a board game podcast. Don't be confused. I'm Tom Vassell.
It's a little confusing. Hi there. I'm Eric Summerer.
All right. At this point in time, the Pledge Manager is closed. Hopefully you filled it out. If not, email us. We'll try to fix it for you. And we're moving on. Also, don't forget, we want to remind you every episode that when you're listening to Mandy and Suzanne, and you're like, where's Tom and Eric? They're so lazy. They took the week off. That's not quite true. We're doing a Wednesday YouTube show called Dice Tower Tonight. So pay attention to that one. Okay. Well, before we get into anything else, let's talk about some games that we're playing. What do you got, Eric?
Well, I got to play a Kickstarter game called Wendake, which is a name for a Native American tribe. This is a resource management game that uses a really cool mechanism. You've got this 3x3 set of tiles that represent different actions you can take. And each round of the game, you're going to activate 3 of these, sort of in a tic-tac-toe pattern. So you can do 3 vertically, 3 horizontally, or 3 diagonally. And they represent all sorts of crazy different actions. After you do these things, and that's collecting resources, moving your guys around the board, all that fun stuff. Once you do that, all of those tiles that you activated are going to flip upside down, making them sort of a general action, not as powerful or useful, but a general action that has its uses. And then the bottom row of these tiles slide off. You can then upgrade one of those tiles. You get rid of one of the 3, shuffle them up, and that's your new top row. And then you begin another round, and you have to position your tiles, hopefully, so that you can do the actions you want. And as you upgrade them, they do more things. They do them in a cool, different order. And you are spreading out on the board, collecting resources, turning those into complete orders, get technologies and special powers. And it is a very puzzly game. And as such, really fits into my wheelhouse. I enjoy this sort of thing. And it's tough, trying to figure out how you're going to maneuver your tiles into a position where you can do what you want to do. But I found it to be a very cool game. Currently very difficult to get if you didn't back the Kickstarter, but hopefully it should have some distribution soon. It's called Wendake, which is Wendake, from designer Danilo Sabia and Placentia Games. I liked it a lot. Big thumbs up for Wendake.
I have not played this one yet, but I think Z might have. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a game with pandas in it from Simon called Way of the Panda.
I played 1 round of this, maybe 2 rounds.
Now, Way of the Panda it has an overload of cuteness. Everyone gets these 3 warrior pandas. I think it's a monk, a warrior, and something else. But they're differentiated by type. I think there's a monk. Like I said, they're differentiated by their class. Mm-hmm. But I just usually call them red, blue, and green because they have colored bases of those colors. You also get a pile of little panda guards, like Axis and Ally soldier-size pandas. So many cool pandas in this game. Do you know why pandas are in this game?
I don't.
Probably because they want people to buy pandas.
Yeah.
There's literally no panda theming or anything. You could have replaced everything with Japanese warriors or Chinese warriors. The game is Chinese, I think. Yeah, Chinese warriors. And it wouldn't change anything. They just put the pandas in the game so they could call it Way of the Panda. Now, it's not a bad game. It's actually pretty fun. It's a worker placement game, but a very weird worker placement game in which you have this little board you're placing workers on, but when you put workers down, you have to put them either below the last worker you placed or to the right of the last worker you placed. And each row requires action points. So you put workers down and you're spending action points to take these actions. And while you have plenty of workers, you're going to run out of action points pretty quickly. At the end of a round, you'll pull your pandas off the board, and each panda you pull off will give you an action point. So putting more pandas on cheap things can give you more action points for the next turn. So there's kind of this ebb and flow of action points. Mm-hmm. The action points are going to let you move your big 3 warrior pandas around the map. And they're basically trying to build buildings. They're also killing a bunch of ninjas that are all over the place. So you're defeating ninjas to take control of the roads, get all the roads cleared next to a city. That city is going to score, like area control almost. And if you build buildings in cities, each monk builds a different kind of building, you can get points that way. And there's a few other ways to get points over the course of the game. And so it's all about maneuvering these pandas, this worker placement action, and a little bit of area control. It's good. It's not fantastic. It's probably some people are going to call it overproduced because it's an amazing production. And you're going to open a game and be like, Panda Wars. No, it's actually just Panda worker placement. But I liked it. I thought it was an interesting game. It had a lot of unique ideas, and especially the worker placement. It's way better with 4 than it is with 2. 2 is okay, but the interaction and the area control works better with 4. So that's coming in May from Simon, Way of the Panda.
Let's scale back the production level just a hair here. My other game to talk about today is Sakura. This is a new one from Osprey Games, from Reiner Knizia.
It looks pretty, though.
Yes, it does. It's got some lovely little art and some nice cartoony scenes on these various cards. The story here is that you are an artist, and you are trying to paint the emperor enjoying the cherry blossoms. So you're following the emperor around, and when the emperor pauses to enjoy the cherry blossoms, you want to be in the prime position closest to the emperor to therefore paint him. So what this means is that you follow along behind this emperor pawn, jockeying for position, and then whoever is closest to the emperor, when he stops and reaches a certain point along the track, that will score the best. And you do this by playing these numbered cards. Each one of these cards has multiple little mini actions on it. Most of them will move the emperor in some way, forward or backward. Others will move you forward or backward, or maybe move the person who's in front backward, or move the person who's behind forward a certain number of spaces. And they all leapfrog over each other because no 2 pawns can cover 1 space. And it might cause you, accidentally, to run into the emperor. And if you do so, you are disgraced. Disgraced. And you must move back 3 spaces, and you also lose one of your...
I'm already irritated at you just for maybe possibly doing it.
Yeah, you're going to be in trouble. You lose a point. You start out with a few at the very beginning, and then scoring happens. I think it's maybe three times. Yeah, in the course of the game, and that's all over. It has a little bit of a flavor to Gravwell because you're playing your cards simultaneously face down, then you reveal and then resolve in numerical order. So a little bit like Six Nimmt or Gravwell, and then chaos ensues because you may think you're doing something super smart, moving the emperor to scoring position, moving you right where you want to be, but somebody who acts before you messes with your plans and has you then colliding with the emperor and being disgraced disgraced. It's cute. It's a light game. I enjoyed it. It's one that could easily be understood by other folks. I don't know how engaging it would be for like my kids. I actually asked my son if he wanted to play when we were playing with some other adults, and he's like, "No, I'm good." So the components, I think it's just like basic pawns. It's not a whole lot of, there are no pandas here to draw you in. But
you don't have to keep saying it. I don't think anyone's expecting pandas to be in.
Now pandas need to be in everything. That's all I'm thinking.
Well, I'm not going to argue with that, but
so it's cute. It plays quickly. It's got a simple mechanism, and I could certainly bring this out with lots of different groups of people. So I enjoyed Sakura. Just don't get confused because it's like one of 8 games called Sakura. This is from Knizia and Osprey Games.
All right, well, now to a small new game from Upper Deck. Although they did this, I keep saying Upper Deck. Ultra Pro. I don't know why I mix those up so much. One makes cards, the other sleeves them. But Ultra Pro has actually expanded their game catalog. They now they own Playroom Entertainment, which you might know from their Killer Bunny games or their amazing array of children's games, and also some other games too. And they also have Jolly Roger games and Stoneblade. And Stoneblade made Ascension, and so in conjunction with Stoneblade, they made this game called Shards of Infinity, which has nothing to do with the upcoming Marvel movie, but you might think so, since one of the characters does look a little bit like Thanos. Anyhow, you take a character in this game, it's a deck builder. You start with a deck of 10 cards, and in the middle you have a pile of cards. And each person starts with 50 life. And you are trying to take your opponent, or opponents if you're playing multiple, down to 0. If you do so, you win. You do this by playing cards that will attack your opponent and by playing cards that will let you buy cards from a middle row in front of you. Now, if this sounds familiar, it's because this has been done in games before, most notably Star Realms. Have you played Star Realms, Eric?
Once or twice, yes.
Yeah, so it's very similar to that. The difference is it kind of takes place in a techno fantasy world, but it also has some differences. Not just in components, it has some very nice boards with spinners on them to show that you have 50 life and down, but also with the way you buy these cards. Now, in deck builders, many times when you buy a card, it goes into your deck, and then when you run out of cards in your deck, you shuffle your deck, and you get these new cool cards, right? But this game has some cards that when you play them, they stay in front of you. You can exhaust them or tap them each turn to do something. Again, that's from Ascension, right? That makes sense. So we're seeing that here. But there's also cards called mercenary cards in the middle of the table. So a lot of the cards that show up are called mercenary cards. And when you buy a mercenary card, you can stick it in your deck and wait till it comes up and use it, blah, blah, blah. Or you can use it the moment you buy it. In which case, it happens, whatever effect it has goes off, and then you discard it to the bottom of the pile in the middle of the table. This makes for some very interesting choices, especially as the game gets... At the beginning of the game, you're probably going to want to buy cards and stick them in your deck. But as the game goes by, you're going to sit there and go, I got a lot of money this turn. I can do some really big attacks against my opponent if I just use these cards right now, buy a bunch of cards and use them right now. And I really like that. There's also cards that have shields on them, so if your opponent attacks you, you can reveal the shield and block it. And on each player's player sheet, they have 2 spinners. There's one that's health, I already mentioned that. The other is mastery, which is a better word for it would probably be levels. You start with 0, 1, or 2, or 3 levels, depending on what the turn order is. But on your turn, you can always spend one of the money, whatever it is, crystals, I guess, to go up a level. And there's other cards that will also help you gain mastery to go up these levels. There are a lot of cards that will do extra stuff if you are at a certain level. So I might play a card and it says, gain 2 money, but if you're level 10, you gain 4 money. Well, that's pretty cool. So these cards get better. And everyone starts with an Infinity Shard, which does 2 damage. At level 10, it does 3 damage. At level 20, it does 4 damage. And at level 30, it does infinity damage.
What?
Yeah, you heard me right. Which means, essentially, if you get to level Mastery 30, as soon as you draw that card, you're going to kill somebody. Well, in a 2-player game, yes, you win. And like most games in this genre, it works best as a 2-player game. If you're going to play multiplayer, I would add the house rule that you can only attack the person to your left or right or whatever. However, this game totally kills Star Realms. Period.
Wow.
I'll never play Star Realms again.
I
It's
just
so much better.
kickstarted Star Realms, though. I just got the big box.
What I meant was, yeah, they're both good.
Oh.
But for those listening, totally kills Star Realms.
Oh, no.
It depends, though. Star Realms does have a lot of expansions, a lot of things it does, and some side stuff, and there's all that. But base game to base game, way cooler. I love those mercenary cards, and I love the leveling up aspect. It plays very quickly. You get ultra powerful really fast, and just wailing on each other. I love it. That is Shards of Infinity.
Oh, hey, Tom, I just noticed the blinking light over here. We got a voicemail from Suze. You want to hit it?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Hey there, guys. It's Suzanne, and I just wanted to give you a call, well, because I kind of miss y'all. It's been a little while since I've seen you. It's been a few weeks since GAMA. Oh, and by the way, Eric, you were so missed at GAMA this year. I can't even tell you. But I think you'll really like the new location at Reno, if for no other reasons than it's much less smoky than Vegas, and the recording area that the Dice Tower has set up, it is slick. But there are far less funky Coca-Cola flavors for us to try, so, I don't know, trade-offs and all that jazz. But about GAMA. You know, we were at GAMA, and there were tons of publishers and designers there, and, of course, retailers. And personally, I loved talking to all the store owners and employees and kind of hearing what their considerations and concerns are in the new age of the hobby as it grows and evolves and consolidates and morphs. And it got me to thinking about the fact that you two have probably been to far more local game stores than most other people, including retail store owners. And you have got to have some hot tips and tricks for store owners that really could help push them over the top. I mean, being clean, being well lit, having friendly employees, that's kind of basics, right? But what are the little hints that you would give retailers that would push them over the edge from being a nice local game store to being a great local game store? And who better to chime in on that than people who have had vast experience exploring local game stores, well, at this point, all around the world. So I'm wondering if you guys could give me your thoughts on that, and we'll see if local game stores find that useful or helpful. But until I get to see you both very, very soon, I miss you. I hope you're having tons of fun gaming, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
You know, I mean, as much as I would love to answer this question, I think we need some expert assistance here, Tom.
Well, that's good because I have another blinking light. Let's see who's on this line. All right, folks, we're being joined now by a very, very important person in the industry, and I am not using hyperbole at all, but you may not have heard of her before. Welcome to the show, Dawn Studebaker.
Hi, thanks so much.
Now, Dawn is important for two reasons. One, she has a game store, and two, she is on the board of GAMA. But let's talk about your store first. What's the name of your store and where is it?
The store is the Game Annex, and we're in Fort Wayne, Indiana, 2 hours north of Gen Con.
Well, that's convenient then. You can drive the Gen Con and get back. Sometimes I wish we could do that.
Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about your store. What would, if someone was saying, what puts your store, what's unique about your store? Other than yourself, of course.
Well, we started our store almost 5 years ago. And one of the things that I wanted to do differently was that I wanted to make sure that it was very hands-on, very interactive. Now, we've all done that, and we've all had demos, and we do all that good stuff. But we wanted a board game focus, and we wanted to make sure that we were always having unique experiences happening in our store. So we have a very open feel. It's very bright. It's welcoming. I would say most people say that our store is different because we excel in customer service.
Now, you mentioned that you put an emphasis on board games, but when I've gone to stores, I've noticed that there's kind of different categories. We have board games, collectible card games, miniatures games, role-playing games, and then I don't know what to call it, like nerddom, like, swords and toys and things like that.
Sure.
What does your store look like in that regard?
Well, when you walk in the store, the first thing you're going to be hit with is walls of board games, and everything is forward-facing. The merchandising, you're just going to see complete board games because that is our number one focus. I would say it's a split focus, board games and miniatures. But when you walk into our store, it's not cases of, collectible card games. You're going to actually see board games and board games for you to put your hands on, play with, and touch. And then if you look across the room where our play space is, you'll see this huge, enormous demo shelf, which is utilized for our customers. We have a program called the Annex Advantage program. And if you're simply a customer, you get to use all those games at your will. And what's cool about it is that it's not just a whole bunch of games like thrown on a shelf. They're organized, they're alphabetized like a library, and it just looks beautiful.
So customers are rewarded by for shopping at your store by getting access to this library. How often do you need to buy something or visit events in order to gain access to that library?
Well, theoretically, the rule is 30 days, but it's not really hard. It's a $20 purchase, right? Like it's not some major board game purchase. We just want to make sure that it's for active customers. The only reason we did that was because we were full all the time, and we were full with people that weren't necessarily shopping in our store, and then our customers couldn't sit down. And any good business person wants to make sure their customers can sit down. So we've actually grown now. Like we've increased so much space in our building. We're up to 5,500 square feet now. And 3/4 of it is play space. So we definitely have to monetize the space and the events. But we still have a huge selection of board games and, miniature games. We do collectible card games as well, too. But, our biggest board game night is Friday nights, where most people, their biggest thing is Magic. We're doing that casually. People are playing Magic in the back and having fun and laughing, and people are playing board games. And it's a really cool vibe in our store.
Hey, Future Eric here. We actually got a text from Dawn after this discussion, and she wanted us to make sure we explained that the members-only aspect of the library isn't exactly true. It's just that you get free access to the library if you're one of their members and regular customers. And just if you're a walk-in, they never want to turn anyone away. They just charge $5 to open game in their facility. Anyway, just wanted to clarify.
So how do you mentioned it, you have board game nights on Fridays. How do you keep the miniature people happy? Do they have their own nights too? Because they use a lot of table space.
So our miniature players actually have their own area that's never kind of utilized by anybody but them. So we have 3 of the big 4x6 tables in the back, and then we have a closet full of them. So when we have events that would need more Warhammer or War Machine space, more war tables, we actually have convertible ones that we can put out on the tables. But there are 3 large tables for people to game anytime. And then we have rentable play back of our building. So if on Friday night the entire front section is used or full, we can actually pull out one of those convertible tables and create some space in the back so that we're hoping that we're never ostracizing anyone.
Well, one of the things that we've been discussing actually on this very show is just how many games are coming out right now. I mean, it's I call it the tsunami of board games that are coming
exhausting.
out. So how do you deal with that? There's no way you can stock them all. It's not possible. So how do you pick the ones to be in your store?
So I have a good friend of mine who recently made a statement about me. It's another colleague, another retailer. Some people know him. It's Gary Ray. And he said the difference between him and me is that he is a numbers guy, and he just orders what he predicts to be good. He's like, most of us are sitting on the shoreline and we're waiting for the flood to come in, but Dawn's out there surfing the waves because I predict and I forecast really well what games I think will work for my store. So I know my clientele, I know my customers, I know people that walk in the door, I know people that are just, casual shoppers. I look at those numbers, but I get to know them. So it's easy for me to pick games that I think will fit very well in my store. I actually don't hate there being this many games. I hate when somebody comes in and I can't get it for them because we're in an industry where we're printing once and then we're done. But I don't mind having all the options. I just don't like it when I can't get them what they need. So I'm really good at forecasting what's going to be great. Others may not be. And I think if you don't know board games that well, that you probably shouldn't go that heavy, or you should figure out how to do them well.
Can you give us like a surprising success story over the last year where there was a game that came in and it just was an amazing hit and it did really well?
That I didn't expect, or that...
Either one that maybe you predicted or one that you didn't expect.
I mean, I knew Fallout was going to be great because it had a video game following, and it didn't matter if you were going to like the way that the game played or not, it was just going to sell. So we get those kinds of games all the time. The sad part about it was that there wasn't that that stamina afterwards, because I couldn't reorder the game. It was 12 in and 12 out, and I couldn't get any more. And my size store, we're a smaller store, like I said. 12 is, usual, and sometimes not nearly enough. We did phenomenal with Bunny Kingdom and Mountains of Madness, but that's part of that had to do with it had a lot of buzz at Gen Con, and the price points were amazing, and we could get restock like over and over and over again. So, and I kind of feel like some of us stores helped drive that excitement because we had those early release programs that Yellow did to get demo copies and kind of talk to people about it and get people excited about it before they had even heard. So that was kind of interesting, but we just sold so many of both of those games. I did pretty good with Viral too. I mean, there's no surprise there with my connection with Arcane Wonders and how much I like the company. And that did really well for us. We have a lot. There are so many games this year. It's really hard to pinpoint, which ones stand out. But those three did really well. But they were at the end of the end of the year, and they shined pretty bright for us. So
one thing that publishers always like to talk about, we just got back from GAMA, and the publishers are always talking about in-store events, organized play. That get people interested and excited about a particular title, get people into local stores. Is that an approach that you have embraced in your store?
That's a double-edged sword. We do embrace organized play. I think we excel at it, but we excel at it because we create our own and we make unique experiences for our customers. Organized play, it's tough. I was on a panel at GAMA, and that was one of the questions. We were talking about organized play. It's really hard to just tell a publisher what's going to work well, because I don't believe that it's cookie cutter box experiences. We get a lot of customer loyalty because they love our events. I mean, on New Year's Eve, we had a Great Gatsby theme, and the Great Gatsby theme was, really well received, and everyone dressed up and everybody had a great time. We did a carry-in. In Indiana, you can apply for beer and wine licenses. So we did the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
You have to jump through a lot of hoops for that, but we do it. And we just have really great experiences. So we build that customer loyalty because they love doing things in our store. It definitely is a third space. It's definitely where people want to go to hang out. So organized play, publishers pushing us in that direction. Yeah, it's great. It's awesome. And some of these publishers have amazing organized play. Incredible. I was really pleased with some of the Games Workshop organized play events that they did. Their Fate of Konar, where they had the live streaming of who was, controlling the world. And our players would watch it and they would just play along and watch. And it was, exciting and fun. Those are the kinds of experiences that we create. So to see another company actually do that was fantastic. So, but a lot of the companies will just put 2 demo boxes or 2 demo games in a box and then have some promos. It's not necessarily working for us.
Well, let me ask you this. You mentioned earlier when you were talking about the Bunny Kingdom about the Gen Con buzz. Is there different things over the course of the year that give that buzz? I don't know how often like convention buzz hits local stores.
Well, for me, it hits all the time because I'm 2 hours from Gen Con and 2 hours from Origin, so I'm in the middle of the gaming world. Those things can generate a lot of buzz, but I have a lot of people that don't even know it exists. You know, we're dealing with such a mixed medium of people that are very connected to the gaming industry and people that just do it, you know, kind of casually. But if you're not paying attention, Gen Con can really smush a local store because, you know, people are saving up their dollars when you're within driving distance. And they're driving to the convention to get the hot and the now and whatever everybody's talking about.
Right. So with all these things coming out and with how busy your store makes you, you still managed to be on this board of GAMA. What made you decide to do that?
Silliness. No, I love it. I'm very passionate about Origins. It's one of my favorite shows. Like, hands down, being a local to both the shows, Origins has by and far been one of my favorite shows for years. And then as I got into this industry and we started our store, and I'm pretty much a newbie at 5 years, I met all these fantastic retailers that I really connected with and I enjoyed and I wanted to spend time with. And yeah, there's some that, you know, they're a little rough around the edges. They've been doing this a while and they're set in their ways, but I like meeting everybody and I like helping people be the best that they can be in no matter what industry they're in. So for me, my passion is helping grow our industry, and I'm just doing it on this tier. So that seemed like a natural fit when we were talking about GAMA. They invited me to do some seminars because in my past job experiences, I have a pretty significant social media background. I joke with all of my colleagues to practice what I preach, not what I do. Because, you know, being a small business owner, you don't get to do all the great things on social media you wish you could do. But they invited me to speak, and then I started meeting some other people. And, Travis Severance, who a lot of people know, he thought that I might be a good fit for the board. And Lynn Potian ended up nominating me, and I accepted. And I got nominated and won the election and thought, you know, all right, let's see what I can do. And I've really enjoyed it. I love helping people solve problems that may be obvious to me, but may not be to them. So I just like helping people.
Well, other than, we know that GAMA runs a GAMA trade show, an industry trade show each year. We just came back from it. And Origins, what else does GAMA do?
So as far as the organization as a whole, now that I'm the chair, I'll sit on the board proper and I'll have a better answer for that. I didn't really dive into what they do specifically, only what I do on the retail side of things.
Okay, well then I guess I'll modify it to say, what does the retail board do?
Oh, perfect. So the retail board, actually, we schedule all the seminars and find qualified participants for the GAMA trade show. We act as a mediary between manufacturers, publishers, and the retailers themselves, also distribution. We try to be the voice. If they have a problem, they can come to us. We can talk about it. But really, theoretically, when it comes down to it, we're here for education and for supporting the efforts that our organization rolls out. Like just recently, you may have heard, one of our publishers have asked that we make sure that all of our volunteers and staff have background checks to be involved in a organized play situation. And that was readily hit with a lot of brick walls. And between GAMA themselves proper and the retail board, we were like, well, what can we do? We can't step in and tell them they're wrong. They have the right to run their own business the way they run their business. What can we do to help? And John Ward was great. Him and Travis worked together and They asked a few questions from those of us on the board, and they worked and they found a way to get $7 per, deeply discounted background checks for all game stores. And you just sign up with the company, and if you need the service, you have it. They're working on healthcare issues. They work on credit card issues, everything that you need to run your business, they try to help with to make life easier for you. And then we provide education through seminars and training, and bringing publishers and retailers together so that they can both benefit from cross, networking.
Now, the GAMA show this year was I think, a stunning success. Moving to Reno was, of course, a risky thing. To move, something to a different city is always tough, but it went really well. And so it looks, it's going to be there for at least the next several years. What did you find interesting or unusual or what, something cool about the future of the industry? Anything come out at GAMA that you found fascinating?
So this is horrible, but I had taught so many seminars. I did not get to spend a lot of time normal consumer at the show. There was a lot of stuff that I was excited about and got to see that we might have already had previews to, but going back to the GAMA thing, you aren't kidding. That was phenomenal being at Reno. Like I loved the facility. I can't say enough great things about it. I wish I could talk more about what I saw there. But me and some of the other board members kind of laughed because we're lucky. We work so hard at the trade show that we don't see as much as the normal attendee does. But we are lucky enough to know the publishers and able to say, hey, what did I miss? There were some interesting things that happened. I mean, Asmodee, they're huge, clearly, and they hired some new folks on at Asmodee, and they're coming up with a retailer bestsellers kind of offering, and it's going to give you some special deals as a retailer if you enroll in. That was interesting. We get a lot more information at this show about policy and procedure and things to look for versus big game announcements, so to speak. But the game announcements that were there gave me good hope that I don't think we're going to see much of a huge decline in quality this year. I think we're going to have another great year. But, March is so early. Nobody's really willing to go out and say a lot about their big releases because they want them to be surprises by Gen Con, and they need to make sure that they're getting manufactured in time. So you can tell the more pressure there is on the publisher to be able to get their products out in a timely fashion, there's less information that we get about product and we get more information about procedures, which is fine for me because it takes both sides of the business to run one well, right?
Yeah, it's sort of like you have to ride this this balancing act between getting retailers excited about upcoming product, but not ruining the surprise for later. You don't want to, because that information gets out. You can't keep it a secret. People are going to talk, and so you can't just ruin your entire slate of new releases in March.
I know that we were sitting in the lobby area of I must have Bally's, gosh no, of the Peppermill, and outside of the classrooms. And one of the attendees that's a good friend of mine said, I literally was sitting in the seminar, and as they're telling us what's going to happen, I think it was Monster Apocalypse from Privateer Press. He looks down on his Facebook, or he looks down at his phone. He gets a notification. One of his customers had already live tweeted it out, and it was the seminar he's sitting in. So yeah, people are going to talk, and it's going to just, the information is going to flow. So I think sometimes people are a little more apprehensive. Publishers are apprehensive to give too much information too soon because they're always afraid to disappoint us if they don't get it out in time.
Mm. Well, that actually brings up an interesting point. You're dealing with customers now who are, at least in their own opinion, very, very smart about board games. Do you ever find that to be a challenge where they come in and they already know everything?
No, I don't. I mean, I really don't. Like, I love that people know what they want. I'm still providing a great service, whether they have all this information or not, because they can get all this information and then they'll say to me, well, I liked this game, and you can direct them and say, well, that's kind of almost the same thing, or that's just a reskin, so you can educate them still a little bit too, but them knowing what they want and what they like, it's great. I just have to be more creative and more unique. I go to shows to find some of the smaller publishers too, so I can bring that back. It might not be something that's getting all the, attention on your show or any of the other shows out there. So we still can provide a great service for our customers that they're not going to get anywhere else. So I don't think it's a challenge for them knowing, having all the information about the games. I think it's fun. You do get you can get the pretentious people that spend their day on the internet and they know everything. And, I just let them know everything, right? We're in customer service. If they want to sit there and know everything, I'm cool.
Well, before we go, I'm assuming that every once in a while you must play a game yourself. What's a game that you really enjoy playing these days?
So I joke all the time that board games are like tapas to me. Like you get a little sampling and you have to move on because that's how I forecast well, right? Like I'm just tasting them all and I'll play them once and then I'll move on. But surprisingly enough, Tom, this is I don't think this is going to hurt your soul too terribly bad, but for some reason, Grim Forest has really, and I think it's our store, like the customer interactions when they play it in our store. I agreed with everything you said on your review of it. But for some reason, when you bring adults, and our store is a very adult-centric store. It's not, I don't have a lot of kids in my store on Friday night playing board games. It is definitely.
Oh, I love Grim Forest, so it wouldn't hurt.
Oh,
my
I
soul.
thought you said. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought in your review you said that the components were much stronger than the gameplay.
Oh, I think the gameplay is not like this big, deep game, but I think it's a very fun game.
Oh, yeah. So that one we go to a lot because it's,
oh, yeah, I would too. It's great.
Our store just eats it up like over and over and over again. So that's probably my favorite right now, but that's just because the interactions that I get with my customers. Like you could put that game out and we all are just, we're having a hoot. The other one that's doing really, really, really well right now is Decrypto. And I don't know if you've gotten a chance to look at that or play that yet. But
I have. I don't think Eric has yet.
No, I haven't.
When you get a lot of code names for me, you can teach to anybody, right? But Decrypto is a kind of game where you get a lot of really smart gamers around and they get in their own heads. It is hilarious. This store has been, as soon as we get it out, there's like 10 people coming over to the table to play the game. So Grim Forest, Decrypto's done really well for us. We're doing some previews of Fairy Tile this weekend, which I'm excited about before it releases. So those are also the other experiences we give our stores. We try to connect with people so we can get special things for our stores ahead of time when we can. But so many games I'm enjoying. That is the one great thing about there being this vast influx of so many games, like just coming at us all at one time. You're never at a loss for something to play.
That's true.
All righty, Dawn. Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show. Before we sign off, anything you want to tell people? Any special events they should stop by if they're in the area?
Oh my gosh, we do garage sales at our store. We've got one coming up at the beginning of May. That's a huge hit where people get to bring in their games and sell them off so they can get new stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, we are this weekend. We're doing the previews of Fairy Tile. We got Legion going all weekend long. It's amazing. We're so excited about it. Let's see. I think we have two really big things that are coming up soon, but I can't tell you about them yet because I like to have my customers find out on Facebook with us. But our Tabletop Day event is always crazy. It's wall-to-wall people, and that's April 28th, so that'll be awesome too.
Cool.
All righty. Well, thanks so much, Dawn, for coming on the show. We hope to see you again soon. We'll probably see you at Origins.
Yeah, I will be there.
Okay, folks, Wow.
We asked for feedback on this particular issue about how, games are sort of flooding the market and what do we do about this glut of games? How do we approach them? And we got usually we get small little comments, but we got some well-reasoned, like multiple paragraph long emails on this.
I am applauding you all, and I'm so very sorry that we will not read all the comments. They are so many and so many different opinions. So we're just going to go through. Me and Eric are going to cherry pick some of these comments that we're going to talk about. But we want to say a huge thank you to each and all of you. And I'm definitely going to be bringing up more subjects because this was fun for me to have this interaction with you all. And so just to clarify what we're talking about is I asked, is there just too many games out there? I'm feeling a little overwhelmed in reviewing. And the other day I said, guys, I can't review all the games. And they said, we knew that 3 years ago. And I was like, well, okay, I'll just get a little behind on it.
You finally caught up. Yeah.
So what to do? Is it a problem? I mean, it's not, So I just kind of threw it out there. So Scott, now this one's a little far out there, but I thought it was interesting. Scott says that what he does is he keeps an Excel sheet of the games that basically it's like a wish list. And it has 160 games in that list, and each game has a random number next to it that's generated by Excel. At the beginning of each month, he says, how much am I going to spend on board games? Okay, whatever, make that amount. Then he sorts this list with these random numbers from smallest to largest, and he just starts buying the game at the top of the list, and then a choice is out of his hand. So he says, the way I see it, if I want to buy a certain game, then I want to buy that game. So to me, it doesn't matter the order that I get the games. I'm not worried about getting the hot new game every month. I recently got in a hobby about 3 years ago, so in a lot of ways, I'm always playing catch-up. Although games that I purchase might not be the new hotness, they're still new to me. Okay. I don't think I'd have the guts to try this.
No, I mean, the next level of that, of course, is that you do like a blind order. So I don't see the sort, and I just place that order, and then when it arrives, it's a surprise.
Oh, have someone else do it for you?
Yeah.
Ooh. Now
here's my list. Randomize it. Here's your X amount of dollars, and get the next, two games on the list or whatever.
This just got interesting. That is interesting, but to me, I don't know that I would ever have like 160 games that I want it equally. There's always going to be one or two where I'm like, I really want those. I guess you can just buy those, and if there's any money left over,
right?
Or if you're like, I'm torn between these 5. Bring out the Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, the roulette wheel. I don't know. I think it's kind of exciting to be able to go for a random choice.
All right, well, what do you got?
Well, Dead Squirrel. I don't know. If
most
that's
people put their
name.
names like Alex or Robin or whatever. This person put Dead Squirrel. I couldn't even pull their name from their email address, so I don't know if it's male or female, if it's an adult. I just know they are a dead squirrel.
Well, Mr. or Ms. Squirrel.
Oh wait, never mind. It says
that what we've been doing.
In the email that they're a male. Never mind.
Okay, well, Mr. Squirrel says that what we've been doing with our top 10 lists is very helpful, but many of them get outdated. So they may have a list from 3 years ago, and we try and get back to them in about that time frame, but it sometimes takes a while to get back to these things. So Mr. Squirrel is suggesting that we update some of the best top 10 lists, some standard top 10 genre lists annually, even if it's just in a print form, only on the website. Also, more comparative lists. If you like this type of game, here are some similar games that build on that idea. And also just keep producing as many videos as you possibly can.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we actually do our lists. It's different. Sometimes we'll do them 5 years apart on the podcast. On the video, I'll do them 4 years apart. And there's just so many lists to do, right? Some lists we probably need to do more often. And I agree. I think lists are a really big deal. I think they're very useful, but that seems self-serving for me to say that.
It is a great way to look back. I mean, that's we talk about how to get away from the always going for the new thing, and it gives you a chance to a year, 2 years, 3 years back, sometimes 15, 20 years back, look at games that are still strong, still standing out, and doing things as well as, if not better than, the current crop.
Well, now Jed is also a store owner like Dawn, and he said he wanted to give some feedback, and he says he doesn't think there's too many games being released. He says the health of the industry is evidence of that, and until he starts seeing major companies go out of business, there's just simply not too many games. Kickstarter seems to be leveling out a bit. I don't know that I agree with that. It seems like there's more and more Kickstarter stuff, but maybe I'm wrong. And more projects will fail before they succeed if the market is saturated. Well, that's already happening. Most projects on Kickstarter, most of the board games fail. Well, it seems like they do, and I'm okay with that. He says as a friendly local game store owner, the most helpful thing board game media creators can do is create a variety of media and take into consideration your different audiences. Some people want those in-depth reviews because they only buy a few games a year and they want to be really smart. And on the other hand, he says every week he sends an email to his 10-plus employees with a one-sentence description about new games coming in and rules overviews that are as short as possible. So then he sent us an example of a very short review of a game and says there's so many games coming out, it's not possible for even his employees to know how to play every game, but he wants them to have an understanding of what a game is about. And you know what? This is something I agree with. I was talking to someone about this. I don't know if it was you, Eric, or someone else, about how it drives me crazy when I go into a store and the employee doesn't seem to know anything about that business. And the person I was talking to said, well, they might not know much about that business. And I said, yeah, but if I went to work in a store, if I didn't know anything about it, I would try to learn about it. When I worked in a grocery store way back when, I learned about food. I wanted to know the different foods. I wanted to know where every food was in that store. So if someone asked me, I could be like, aisle 4, bottom shelf, left row. I just thought that was something that you should do. Now, I guess that's not what most people do, but you should have some sort of knowledge of what's in your store. And so if you have employees, I might have an employee who's like, I'm a Magic player. Great. But you should know some good gateway games to teach people or to point people towards. And if you come in, I'm a board gamer. That's great, but you should still know every Magic release when it's coming out.
Yeah, it's true. There was one store in West Hartford that has since closed where there were miniatures there were board games there, and there actually weren't any CCGs. There were like model trains there. And it was owned by 3 different owners, and each one had their specialty. And if you showed up when the board game guy was there, you could get all your questions answered about the board games. But if the train guy was there, and you're like, what is this cosmic encounter? He'd be like, yeah, I don't know. It's about space. I don't know. And so it was this roulette. You didn't know what you were going to get when you walked in the store.
Right, so you don't have to know everything about everything, but you should know a little bit maybe. Like some like Gary said, just know some of the hot games maybe.
Mm-hmm. So a common theme that I saw, a lot of people mentioned that it's not necessarily a bad thing that there are so many games out there. It just means you have to be more selective about what you pay attention to. You can't pay attention to everything. You have to say, well, I'm going to look at this type of game, or I'm going to pay attention to these reviewers because I know I match with their tastes. And Bill had an interesting idea where we should have some sort of quiz on the website that compares your favorite games with Dice Tower reviewers' favorite games and matches you with one of us, I guess, that you most closely align with. And then maybe that can lead you to some of our reviews that you might not have seen because they might be some people that don't put out videos as often as others. I just thought it was interesting.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe that seems like a lot of programming.
It does.
Darren says he doesn't think we should be comparing games to periodicals, that we should be comparing them to movies. He says movies might make a big splash, but they have a lot of reviews just before or just after release, and they drift out of interest and memory unless they pop back up on an awards show. Some movies might have repeat interest because they have a kids' audience that creates rewatches and replays. Maybe they have a hook that creates repeat watches, but people move on to the next big show. And he says, I think part of the problem is caused by the consumer urge to get the next new thing. And that is exacerbated by the tendency of content providers to spend a lot... Who is he talking about there? Who are these people? To spend a lot of time talking about new games, reviewing new games, doing playthroughs of new games, etc. And he doesn't have a solution for us. So he talks about end-of-the-year lists, look-back lists. He says most of the game purchases happening during or after the gateway to the West, for him anyway. We'd go to Dice Tower Con, but it's too far away from Oklahoma. It's not too far. You can make it. But I'm sure I heard Geek Way to West is amazing. But he has this urge to buy all the time. But see, I think a game should be slightly different than a movie. I'm content to go see a movie once. Unless it's an Avengers movie, in which case I'm going to watch it 5 times. But I'm content to see a movie once. I'm not so sure I would be content playing a board game once. Well, maybe I am, because I'm playing through so many. But a good game, you're going to want to play again and again and again and again and again. That's not how movies work. Unless, of course, you have a 7-year-old who wants to watch the same movie 200 times.
Right. I mean, I'll watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail again.
Would you watch it 2 days in a row? No, you wouldn't. I'm calling you out on that. There's no way if I said, we're going to watch Monty Python every day this week, that after the 4th day, you'd be like, okay, no, stop.
But we could all be reciting it together by then.
You have a sickness.
That's half the fun.
That is a sickness.
Anyway, perhaps. Jonah has an interesting solution, sort of going along with the focusing on particular types of games that interest you. Jonah's suggesting that we not only get excited about whether we enjoy a game, but also add who that might not work for. So for example, Gloomhaven. Incredibly popular game, but it isn't for everyone. I mean, some people have opened up the box and immediately closed it again because they don't know what to do with all of that stuff. But as part of a review, praising it, also saying, but if you like certain types of games, this maybe isn't for you. Or if you really like Descent, then you'll really enjoy Gloomhaven. But if you like Six Nimmt, you're not going to enjoy this. And making it very clear that even though we're excited about a game, it does fit into a category that you personally might not be in.
Maybe. There's like so many things. It's hard. Yeah, you're right. I guess you could say it's not for everybody, but what about a game like Pandemic where I'm like, everybody should try this? Unless you hate cooperative games. In which case this game's not for you. Shut up, Eric. I'm proving my own point wrong. I'm so excellent at arguing with myself.
But I mean that's an extra thing to add to every single review. Okay, yeah, we like this game or we don't like this game, but if you like this kind of game, maybe you would.
James, a designer, says that he notices in the board game industry there seems to lack a strong rating system by reviewers. He says there's a number rating on BGG, but it filters out to around 8 for the best games. What does this rating even mean? How much attention is paid to this rating if an average of 8 out of 10 equals the best the industry has to offer? Well, that's pretty much any time you have any kind of group ratings. Go to IMDb, and I'm sure the highest rated movies, there's some people rating them 1s. Or 0 stars. So, but he says, like, in the video game industry, the websites usually give a number rating. I used to read the video game magazines, and they'd be like, this game got it a 93? Holy moly, that's really good. He said board game reviewers don't generally give these numbers scores. Do any? I know a few on the Dice Tower who do, like myself, Sam, and Z. They give recommendations or approvals or thumbs up, but how does that compare when 100 out of 500 games get a hearty thumbs up? So there's so much things to consume. Wouldn't it be good to give these numbers? He said that, like, if a Dice Tower gives a game 10 out of 10, that's a big noteworthy thing. So he says they understands if a potent reviewer rating system was in place, it could potentially mean that you may one day review my game, says James, and give it a mediocre rating. But he also might get a high number, so has power. Well, the problem with numbered ratings is I'm not sure they mean as much as you say or I think they mean too much. I don't even put number ratings in my reviews. I put them in my weekend review where people can go watch them there. But
right.
First of all, that number rating is kind of hazy because I might play Stuffed Fables with my kids and it's a 10. And I play it with Eric and it's a 3 because I'm not playing that with Eric.
Right, because I'm boring.
Well, that's what. Okay, 2. But but it can change in situations. And also, people, I found if I put a number in a review, people are like, "What? It's a 7. Okay, great. Next." I'm like, well, maybe you might want to hear it because this might be good for you.
Right.
And so that worries me about numbers. They also feel arbitrary occasionally. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love rating everything. Like key lime pie, 10. A good warm towel after a shower, 10. Eric Summerer's voice, 10.
Yeah.
Eric Summerer, 4.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, out of 5. I changed my scale quickly. But I mean, it doesn't, like if I see a restaurant and it has a lot of high ratings, that's great. But if I see someone gave it a 1, that means nothing to me. They might have just had a really bad day. Mm-hmm. I'm always worried about numbers. I think they're useful, but I also don't think they're the be-all, end-alls.
But those numbers are the basis of the seal of approval, seal of excellence that we put on.
Yeah, that's true.
And one of the comments that we sort of skipped over on our list was from Ryan from the Out of Game podcast, suggested that we have a list that we maintain on the website of the games that have achieved those awards so that it's easy for people to say, oh, let's look at all of the Seal of Excellence games, maybe from a certain year, and get a good, at least, cream of the crop for some reviewer on the team.
Yeah, okay. It's okay. I'm getting so much advice here, but I'm not sure that any of it's like solving my problem in my heart. I don't know what the deal is here. Let's see. Maybe I'll find something else here. Okay, so Philip says he thinks a big part of the solution lies in the community. Shows like Dice Tower and sites like BGG are critical to help us discern where to focus. But we should encourage more shared or communal ownership and conventions with shared libraries. So he's saying he went to Shut Up and Sit Down convention, and the library was so good and the community were so extensive that as I walked around, he realized he probably didn't need to buy another game ever again, and he could still play all the games he wanted to. Not every person needs to own every game. Okay, I agree with that, but a shared library with another convention, that'd be tough. And then he says one of the biggest problems in America, and this, of course, our podcast is for the world, but he mentions America, we have consumerism. We're just buy. So we should buy less and give more. Back a game at a lower level. Be more discerning on what games you buy. Yes. And he says, and I agree with him here. He says he found that when he gives things away, it would normally cause anxiety, but it actually has the opposite effect. It makes him feel less overwhelmed and more peaceful. So I don't disagree with this. On a personal level, if you're overwhelmed, then yes, you should not be buying everything. You shouldn't get everything. We should be more critical about games. I'm not so sure about the shared games. I mean, what if you don't have anyone in your group who wants to buy the games? Or if they buy games and you're like, I really like different games than this person's buying. Like, I would not be happy with Sam's library. I wouldn't be happy with Eric's library.
Probably not.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's games in his library that I think are amazing and fantastic. But he would be missing some critically good games, like Magical Athlete.
Yeah. Still on my wish list, though.
You don't need it now. You got my library.
That's true. If we're sharing our library, it requires me to move down to you, though.
All right, we'll do a couple more.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of trends here. A lot of people suggesting that it is a change in attitude that is necessary. Flip says nobody goes out and tries to read all the books as they come out. Nobody likes all the foods. They stick to a realm and sometimes venture out into others. And board games have reached that point. I think the industry needs to focus on bringing more of an identity to their genres, how they are presented, sold, and marketed. And after a while, the public will learn to concentrate on certain companies or areas or genres that appeal to them. You have to guide the public to rethink how they look at stuff. It's almost like you have to segment a little bit, and you can't focus on everything. But that's tough for omni gamers that like to try everything. You just can't do it anymore.
Yeah, okay, I'll buy that. It is a good comparison to the book industry. You're right. I don't try to buy all the good books. I just let the after a while, I'm like 16 people have said read this book. I guess I'll get around to reading it. Mm-hmm. And I do that. So with board games, yeah, we're probably going to get to the same way where, and I struggle sometimes as a reviewer because people be like, why haven't you reviewed Game X yet? What's wrong with you? Do you hate this company? And I'm like, there's so many games.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you reviewed this stupid game Y, and you should have been reviewing X instead.
Right.
Whoa! That's the noise I make when I'm all alone.
I've heard you make that noise how many times? I mean, if I had a nickel every time you made that noise, I'd have about a dime at this point.
Well, I just did it twice. I'm confused. Whoa! Okay, I can't even do it now. All right. Last comment will be from Becky. She says there's a lot more room for moving to a game rental or library model. It's very similar to what was just mentioned, but she says it already exists with game cafes and even some libraries having board game checkouts. But I think there could be a niche for a business that lets you take a game out a week for $10. This could introduce headaches as far as lost or damaged pieces, but with good sleeving of cards and perhaps requiring a deposit, one could minimize the risks. A similar idea would be to have a board game club with dues that go to a shared gaming library. What do you guys think? In my hands right now, I'm messing with some game pieces. I'm in my house. These are game pieces that my children have removed from games. I'm not well, actually, I do know it. They're from Super Rhino, because this guy he's a rhino with a cape, so it has to be that.
Okay.
Or Super Rhino Battle or whatever.
Yeah.
But I find pieces in my own house for games. I promise you, no matter how careful someone is with your game, it's going to lose pieces, and there's a reason this has never happened. It's just games have too many pieces.
What was the company?
And accidents will happen. Well, whatever the company was, I think they've been out of business for like 3 years. I think it was Board Game Exchange.
That was it. Board Game Exchange. This was a mail order company that you could rent games. They'd send them out basically in an envelope, if I'm remembering correctly. You didn't have the box, and you could play it as long as you wanted. In exchange, it was supposed to be like Netflix back when they were still sending out the CDs, the DVDs, for board games. And you returned the game when you were done with it. And if you really liked it, you could buy it. They'd send you the box. But yeah, I
just went to their website. It says they're under maintenance. They're merging with BGG Co. I don't know what that is.
What?
To offer an unsurpassed service. We'll be back soon. There will be no more shipments as of December 15th, 2017. Wow. Okay, I was wrong. They haven't been out of business.
But
their grand opening is in early 2018. But I'm still not sold on it, right? I mean, I don't... But hey, it's still around.
Okay. All right.
Interesting. All right. Okay, folks, so here's what we're going to do. We got so many good comments. If you go to our forums, we have two main forums. We have the Facebook forums, and then we have a Dice Tower group on Facebook. Join it. It's great. And we have our Board Game Geek forums, and you can find a link to those on our website, dicetower.com. Just click forums. So on the Board Game Geek forums, because it's easier to type big amounts of text, I'm going to just cut and paste all these comments. So you can see them and read through all of them, including the ones we didn't read, and you have a chance to comment on them and add your own comments and continue on with the discussion. If we didn't read your comment, I'm sorry, but they were all great.
They were all
fantastic. And we really, really appreciate everyone sending those in.
Yes, thanks.
Woo. Well... Can we continue? I think we can. Let's do it.
Can we continue?
It's a Dice Tower Top 10!
The Dice Tower's Top 10 list is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff Inc. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.
Okay, so first of all...
We need to define what a comeback game is.
This happens every single time it seems I make a list. And I'm like... That seems so obvious to me. And then there's always another meaning.
Yes.
And so I thought a comeback game obviously meant if you're behind in the game, you can come back and win at the end. But apparently some people said it was a game that's making a comeback. However, once I'm looking at the list, the games that you guys voted on, you obviously most of you knew it the way I meant it.
Okay. So, I liked the one that was, it was a designer's game after they had a dud. And one that was successful. But that would be very difficult to figure out.
No, it would not. I could do a top 10 on that tomorrow.
Really? Okay.
And I'll tell you why. I was just talking about this today. I said, and I was talking about a Kickstarter game, and I said I can never go by a company's mediocre Kickstarter to then ignore their second, game, which might be amazing. And then I listed a couple examples of companies that started with a meh game or an okay game, and then their second game was like, wowzers.
Okay.
As Mr. Gadget would say. All right, so these are games, though, that we're talking about where you are always in it, maybe till the end. Well, not always, but you feel like you're always in it to the end. You might be in it to the end.
There's a chance.
Yeah, you're probably going to lose.
Usually these they have the potential for a dramatic come-from-behind win.
Yes. So you're saying there's a chance.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes. All right. Well, I'll let you go first.
Thanks.
Number 10.
I had to put it on the list. I had to. My number 10, Killer Bunnies and the Quest for the Magic Carrot. Because the whole game is basically a probability race. You're battling with these bunnies and you're acquiring magic carrots that are all numbered. And one of these carrots is at the bottom of the stack of magic carrots. And at the end of the game, you simply reveal them all. And one of them is the winning carrot. And it could be the only carrot you've got. And you may have been pounded and destroyed the entire game, and everybody else has 5 carrots, and you've got 1 measly carrot. But if it's the one on the bottom of that stack, you win. And a lot of people would say that's terrible. But for the purposes of this list, it works. Number 10, Killer Bunnies and the Quest for the Magic Carrot.
I don't know why that doesn't bother me. Every time someone explains Killer Bunny rules, like I just listen to Eric, and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty bad. I still like it. I don't know why. I shouldn't, but it's just entertaining.
It obviously works for many people. There have been, a gajillion different rainbow-colored sets of Killer Bunnies.
All right, my number 10 is a game that is sometimes a comeback game, and that's Robo Rally, especially if you play it correctly. So Eric is winning. He is rounded the corner. He's got to the third flag, because I'm only using 4 flags because I'm smart.
Yes.
We're only using 1 board because I'm also smart.
Okay.
So he's coming up to hit this 4th flag. I'm just hit flag 2. I'm hating Eric right now, besides normally also adding in what's happening in the game.
Besides normally? Okay, fine.
I'm been really mean in this episode.
Wow.
I got to pull back. I don't even have a good reason for it. I just have this aggression I got to work off or something, I guess. But anyway, I'm like trying to catch up to Eric. And I'm like, oh, he's going to get to that 4th flag. And then Peter comes and pushes Eric's robot so he misses the 4th flag and has to swing around. And I'm like, I still am in it. So I go around and I finally hit flag 3. I'm like, oh, Eric turned around. He's coming back to hit flag 4. Peter hits Eric again and knocks him out of the way. At this point, Eric slugs Peter. A big brawl happens, and the game doesn't ever finish. But I might have won.
While everyone's wrestling on the ground, you managed to roll your way to victory.
Yeah, but seriously, you can get, you could be like, it's smooth sailing. Wait, what? I like that about Robo Rally, my number 10.
It is true. There's also the potential of somebody getting too far ahead and having no interference at all in their final run. So the potential's there, but also the potential for a runaway leader.
Number 9.
Number 9, Risk. This is one of those dramatic victories that I have seen. You can't be, totally out of it. If you only have 1 country and, 2 measly armies, you're in trouble. But someone who has been pounded a good bit but has still been collecting cards can get that momentum, and the steamroll can start to happen. And then they collect cards just in time as they're running out of new armies and get an influx of new armies. And I've seen someone who has been dominating the board get slowly destroyed as someone else takes out the other players and eventually fights back strong enough to win. It's difficult. Of course, you have to be very lucky to do it, but I've seen it happen in Risk. Number 9.
Yeah, I just didn't put Risk on my list because it's an awful game. All right, my number 9 is higher on Eric's list. Dun, 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 dun. We'll get to it eventually.
Number 8.
Number 8, Liberté, just as Tom alluded to. Of course, the scenario here is that there will be a few players that are vying for the most points and that are clearly in the lead, but those players who are not have alternate paths to victory. Counter-revolution and what's the other title? Alternate victory conditions that can...
There's the revolution and the counter-revolution.
There we go. Revolution and counter-revolution that can sort of knock the legs off of the people who have been, vying for points throughout the entire game, and they certainly have to watch for that and now spend resources to prevent the losing players from doing that victory. It's possible to come back from behind for sure in Liberté.
I agree, and that's why it's on my list. It's a really fun game. There's one main way to win, obviously, but area control, but you never know. And because of this, games with alternate victory conditions have always appealed to me because of that. It's like, I will win this way. And I'm like, well, okay, fine, I'll go for this other way. I'll probably lose, but you never know.
And yet you hate Antique, Attica.
But that's not why I don't like Attica.
All right.
I don't like Attica because it's not very good as a 3-player game. You know they're releasing it.
Are they?
They are.
Oh.
It's a different name and a different theme. And now you're probably wondering what the different name and different theme are. I don't know. Because I don't care. We just talked about there being too many games. This is not in the pile I care about.
All right.
My number 8 is the one of only 2 cooperative games on my list because I could have made the whole list cooperative. Right?
Yeah.
We're losing. We're gonna, and then we come back and win. That's kind of almost the theme of most cooperative.
That's the arc of most co-ops. Yeah.
Yeah, but I couldn't help myself. I had to put a couple on the list. So Ghost Stories. I can't tell you how many times we've won Ghost Stories by the skin of our teeth. Well, actually, I can tell you. It's been 4. I believe I've won Ghost Story 4 times. And losses are in the double digits. I think just double digits. No, that'd be really depressing if it was higher than double digits. But yes, love this game. You can come back and win at the very end. Fantastic Ghost Stories.
The co-op angle I honestly didn't see. I was going for the non-co-op games, the competitive games for my list.
Well, right, and again, you could have done a whole list on co-op, so I didn't want to fall into that trap.
Right.
Number 7.
Number 7 is the Knizia classic Amun-Re, in which there's these 2 eras where you may spend a lot of resources building up the provinces that you buy in the auction in the first round, but in doing so, you could very well spend a good bit of money and not get as much return as you'd like. Meanwhile, somebody who has been a little more judicious with their money may be far behind in the point total in the first era, now is flush with cash and is able to beat you in those auctions to get those provinces that you spent all those resources building up, and then jump ahead to get massive points in the second half of the game. It happens more often than you'd think. Amun-Re, number 7.
All right, my number 7 is my other cooperative game. So, and Amun-Re is a good choice, by the way, Eric. Excellent choice. But my number 7 is my other cooperative, and that's Pandemic. Because I have literally many times been like, let's just put this game away. We cannot win. And then we have. Now, I've won Pandemic in double digits, which is good because that would be depressing if I never won it. But it still gives you that sense of you're going to die. Mm-hmm. You're like, no, and then we come back and live.
Yeah.
So Pandemic, my number 7, and that's the last cooperative game.
Okay.
Number 6.
Number 6 is a Ravensburger game called Master Labyrinth. You're sliding these tiles around, changing the layout of a maze, and trying to collect numbered ingredients for various potions. You have to collect them in order. So you're collecting the 1 first, then the 2, 3, 4, etc. And the items are worth the number that's on the tile. So you may not have collected anything, but if you collect several of the high-level ingredients near the end of the game, you're going to be collecting 17 points, 19 points, 21 points, and very likely come from behind and possibly win the game. Master Labyrinth, number 6.
My number 6 is a 2-player game, Twilight Struggle. In Twilight Struggle, you were playing the communists versus the United States, and it is USSR versus United States, back and forth in this game, and you could really be losing over the whole world and then suddenly take over Europe and win the game. Or about to lose Europe and you sneak somewhere else. It is this taut back and forth. You can even get, through trickery, get your opponent to DEFCON 1. There's some crazy stuff going on in this game. Now, it's usually back and forth, but like if halfway through Twilight Struggle game, you're like, who's winning? I say, I don't know. I think I am, but that could change. And I really enjoy that. So my number 6, Twilight Struggle.
How do you know you came from behind if you don't know you're behind in the first place?
No. It feels like, no, because there's a point track, so I could be winning.
Okay.
I could be like points away from winning the game, but suddenly, whoop, everything has changed.
Gotcha.
Number 5.
Speaking of whoop, Cartagena allows someone who's been hanging around in the back of the pack, in the early part of the board, with a couple of very judicious moves to leapfrog their way into leading position. You have to sort of leave it for them. But if the other players aren't paying attention and leave paths that are a little too lucrative available to that trailing player, all of a sudden, you may have 3 pirates in the back of the line, and now you're on the boat. And it's certainly happened, and then everyone's looking at the rest of the table saying, Who left the saber path open to Steve? Who left it there? You? I'm not on those spaces. Anyway, it creates arguments.
Is this a real thing? Are you the person who caught up, or the person who's yelling, or the person who left the path open? I want to know.
Usually I'm the one that's yelling. But I'm usually at fault, too, so I can't really...
I like to point out that of all the 5 people in the 7 main hosts of the Dice Tower, of the 7 main hosts, Eric definitely is probably the grouchiest player. You would not know it from his nice voice, and you wouldn't even know when you're playing the game against him.
I'm nothing but pleasant. Unless I'm losing, and then... Anyway, number 5, Cartagena. Arr.
All right, my number 5 is Magic the Gathering. And I think this is a good choice because Magic the Gathering has all kinds of ways. You'd be like, I'm down to 3 life. And then you pull off this awesome combo and come back and win. And it's happened a lot. Now, granted, if you're playing a really good player, you're probably not going to come back because they're going to whoop you. But I've so many times played Magic against someone, and I'm like, I got them. They're down to 1 life. Oh. What? That combo? Oh. Yeah, that was fun. Good game, you jerk. So, Magic the Gathering, my number 5.
Number 4.
Number 4 is the ladder climbing partnership game Tichu. The goal is usually to play to 1,000 points for your team. And you may think you're way out ahead, but a couple of this concept of calling Tichu, saying you are going out first, can backfire. And if that doesn't work, all of a sudden you are giving massive points to your opponents. You're losing points. And a very strong position on the scoreboard can very quickly turn around, and vice versa. So you do see these massive point swings, and a team that's been just getting pounded can leap ahead in a matter of 2-3 hands into a victory position. Tichu, a great comeback game, number 4.
I wouldn't know. I'm not addicted. My number 4 is Innovation. Oh, I love Innovation. Innovation's so fantastic. It's another way where there's alternate win victory conditions in this game. It's a Civilization card game where you are playing these cards and you're constantly building up this tableau and attacking your opponents and having them attack you. And you're like, oh, I'm going to win. I'm going to get the 30 points. And then someone says, I got this card that says if I have these 3 cards and this and this and this done, I win. Boom, done. You're like, what? Or they just win through some other way. There's 3 different ways to win the game. And that could irritate some people, I suppose. But if you know all this stuff exists and you haven't won by that point, you kind of deserve it.
Yeah.
Innovation, my number 4.
Number 3.
My last 3 are all about going on a run, all about getting that boulder moving in however unlikely it might be. And the first... My number 3 is Chicken Cha-Cha-Cha. This is a kid's memory game in which the object is to move your chicken around the board and leapfrog the other chickens, stealing their tail feathers. And if you get all 4 of the tail feathers, you win. But as long as you still have 1 tail feather, you can continue to play. And it's this memory game. You're turning up symbols. And if you have learned the board well enough by this point in the game, you can go on a run, and as long as you successfully keep finding the correct symbol on the grid, you will continue to move forward and leapfrog every other player, and if you do so successfully, you win. And this isn't necessarily luck. This has been skill and paying attention and seizing the opportunity when it finally comes up. And when this sort of thing happens, it's very exciting to watch, especially the kids manage to do this every time they move forward and jump over somebody else. It gets more and more exciting. You get some very dramatic finishes in Chicken Cha-Cha-Cha, my number 3.
I would not have thought to put this one on the list.
Yeah, well.
All right, my number 3 is not so much... It's almost a fake out. It's Lords of Waterdeep. And that's because every single game of Lords of Waterdeep, someone says, Suzanne just scored 40 points. I can't catch her. She's going to win. And I'm like, just wait. You'll see. You will catch up at the end of the game, probably, unless you're a really bad player. Please don't prove me wrong. And every time someone's like, da, 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 I have scored a gazillion points at the very end of the game. Ha, ha, ha. And you're like, what? I thought you were going to lose. I thought you were in last place. I love this aspect of games. It's a lot of fun for me. Lords of Waterdeep.
Number 2.
I'm actually surprised, Tom, that this didn't end up on your list considering your play style for Can't Stop. It is possible.
I shall explain when you're done.
Okay. It is possible, as your opponents may have claimed several columns on the board for Can't Stop, to still win the game. As long as your opponents haven't won yet, you are still in it. And going on a terrific run and really, making some big scoring opportunities, you can go from having claimed 0 columns to getting 2 or 3 in one go. And it's very exciting when that happens. Rare, I'm sure, is what Tom will say. But I've seen it happen. Can't Stop. Number 2.
Well, that you actually answered for me. I think this is a comeback game. But it's never happened to me. So, not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But I want to believe. Someday I'll add this to my list.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I played Ink and Gold just recently at Grand Con. And so I was going into the caves, pushing my luck as always. And one guy said, after we died for the 4th time in a row, he said, why am I going with you anyway? You just said you never won this game, and you always die and lose all your gems. I was like, yes, that's what I said. He's like, I don't know why I keep following you. But he followed me to the end, and we both scored 0.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Number 2 for me is Seven Wonders Duel. This game is the very epitome of this ultimate different victory conditions. I can be like, Eric, you can't win. I have 30 points. You have 6. Eric's like, aha, I got all these science tokens when you weren't looking. What? And he won. Now, you can kind of see this stuff coming, but I always feel like in Seven Wonders Duel, no matter if my opponent's doing way better than me, I have a chance to win. And I really, really like that about the game. Fantastic Seven Wonders Duel.
Yeah.
And finally, number 1.
My last one is almost the sentimental pick for me. It is a old dice game called Skunk. In fact, you barely need to have the game. You can just play this with a couple of dice and some pennies or something. But Skunk is a dice rolling push your luck game in which you're simply rolling the dice and trying not to get ones or the skunk symbol on the dice. And once someone reaches 100... that they've banked 100 points, everybody else around the table gets one more chance to catch and or beat them, the score that they have banked. And so even if you are all the way back, it is theoretically possible for you to roll or not roll skunks and continue to score points all the way up to where the leader is. And when that happens, when somebody goes on a roll, you get people standing up, stand-up die rolls, cheering, yelling, screaming. It is quite the event, and one that my family really enjoyed playing as I was growing up. Skunk, my number 1 comeback game.
And my number 1 is Cosmic Encounter. Yeah, and you can't even accuse me of like sticking this on lists these days.
No,
I haven't put on a list in like I don't know how long.
I'll let you have this one.
But it definitely belongs here. I can't tell you how many times I played Cosmic Encounter, and everyone's like, "Tom always wins this game. We will stop him." And I'll be down to like just 2 planets, and everyone else has 4. And then I'll say, "Listen, I only have 2. I'll help you. I only have 2. I'll do what it needs to be done. I only have 3. I can do it. I have 4 just like you. We could win together." I won. Of course, saying this sort of thing just means someone's going to challenge me for Cosmic Encounter at the next convention and then say, I beat you. Because I do lose in this game often, but I also win often because you get to come from behind, and I love that.
Yes.
So what do people say? Eric doesn't know.
I have no idea because Tom didn't put it on the document. Yes.
All right, number 10. Through the Ages. Definitely a game where you might be losing in points and stuff, and you can come back and win. Mm-hmm. Number 9, Downforce.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think so. I can see that. Unless, of course, this is actually people saying this game was not a big deal. Now it's a big deal. It's come back. This is possibly...
I have no idea.
Erroneous.
Maybe.
I got to start explaining what I mean very clearly. Okay. Next time, folks, when I talk about best games to teach in an English... I don't see how you can mess that one up. But anyway. Number 8, Cosmic Encounter.
Okay,
great. Number 7, Scythe.
Huh. All right.
I guess you can come back in Scythe.
Sure.
Number 6, Carcassonne. Oh, that's a good one, actually. Like, you could be losing, and then that City of Wonder finally scored.
Right, or the big farmer scoring.
Right, the big farmer scoring. Yay! Number 5, Camel Cup.
It's Camel Up. It is not Camel Cup.
It's Camel Cup.
Camel Up.
It's Camel Cup.
Camel Up.
I predict that at some point this year, Eric will say to me, Tom, you're right. It actually is Camel Cup.
Really? So do you know, are they going to clarify in some way?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I feel like I'm right.
I'm saying that the current release is Camel Up.
Well, there is no current release. It's going to be re-released at Dice Tower Con, actually.
Oh, probably as Camel Cup with a better graphic design?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying it could be Camel Cup.
Wow.
Or Dixie Cup. All right, number 4 from the People's Choice, Blood Rage. Definitely, I could see this one in contention where, Loki strategy maybe at the end.
Yeah.
3 is Code Names. Now, this is technically true.
Wow. Okay.
Well, right, because you and me are losing to Susie and Mandy, and I'm saying, okay, Eric. Fight 7. And we could win.
Yeah,
it definitely has happened in games, right?
Yes.
2, Pandemic.
Yep.
And 1, King of Tokyo. That's very true, right?
That is very
you
true.
You could be almost dead in King of Tokyo and not have enough points. And that was like the clear winner. Also, by the way,
I didn't even think of that because somebody is about to win in points and you can knock them out. Yeah.
Well, folks, that is that. Thanks so much for doing that. Don't forget, you can always go to our website and vote on the next top 10 list. You want to get your things in? The next top 10 list that we're going to be doing, I'm pretty excited about doing. We're going to be doing some educational top 10 lists, like games to teach history and math and science and English and things like that.
Yeah.
So we thought that would be a useful thing. So we hope that you give those a listen to. But you know what? It's about time for us to end this. We want to thank Dawn for coming on the show earlier and for Suzanne for popping in and interrupting us, and Rocky Balboa for his courage and training that inspired me to make this podcast. Thank you. I'm in a weird mood. We probably should end.
What? Yes.
Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This episode, number 548, was recorded on March 22nd, 2018. Coming up next week, Mandy and Suze answer some listener questions, and in 2 weeks, Tom and I will be back with our top 10 games that teach math. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is dedicated to providing support to members of the board gaming community in their hour of need. If a catastrophic event has become more than you can handle, find out how we can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Mandy, Suzanne, and Eric, with assistance from Itai Perez, Derek Porter, and Rob Searing. Lesser-known diseases provided by Some B-Side Black Plague. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at CoolStuffInc.com. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network, including Four Corners of the Board, Boards and Swords, the Party Game Cast featuring the Party Game Cast, Board Games Insider, Board Game Blitz, and Flip Flory's Super Saturday Board Game Serial. Find out more at dicetowerNetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming.
Ba-dum-ba, ba-dum-ba. I'm running upstairs right now.
Are you? Ooh. Nice.
No, I'm not. That'd be a weird podcast. Record it live from the stairs of the museum in Philadelphia.
Did you run up the stairs when you were at PAX?
No, it was debated that we were going to do it. Mark Street told us we were going to do it, and the fatter ones of us managed to not do it. We didn't go there. I would do it, actually. I would do it. And I actually need to lose some of this, so I'll do it. If I run up those stairs, I think it's 5 pounds right there.
Sure. I mean, it's just you're rounding in some way.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. It's a date.